DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health. At Merck Animal Health, we're shaping the future of animal health with pioneering science, connected technology, and insights-driven solutions to bring our customers an unparalleled portfolio of choices to improve cattle care and operational efficiency. We support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.
Folks, thanks for joining us on DocTalk today. We have Dr. Cassandra Olds. She's a veterinary entomologist at Kansas State University. We're going to talk about cows and flies and much more. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned.
They're here, they're hungry, and they can't be stopped with ivermectin. Choose Safeguard when you deworm your cattle to take out resistant parasites like brown stomach worm, Cooperia, Nematodiris, and others. With Safeguard's efficacy, you can kill more resistant worms in your cattle, so you don't leave potential on the table. Consult your veterinarian for the diagnosis and treatment of parasitism. Then bite back at safeguardworks.com.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We have Dr. Cassandra Olds here with us today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. We're shooting in Manhattan, Kansas on the campus of Kansas State University where Dr. Olds serves as a veterinary entomologist. And if you all know about flies and ticks and cows and prevention, feedlot, cow-calf, and we're going to focus on flies and cow-calf today, this is the expert. We haven't found anybody. Our practice utilizes Dr. Olds, our clients. It's truly a treasure, and we're very thankful you'll be on the show.
Oh, happy to be here and happy to help anybody with their fly issues.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to talk about cows.
Yeah.
And these are roaming pastures and moving, and so different than a CAFO or confined animal. But let's just kind of dig into it and what are the problems and the impacts and the flies and all that.
So it really is an underestimated impact, right? They've done some studies that have, tied numbers of flies to cows and things like that. And you'll get, a 20-year-old study that said horn flies cost $1 billion or, inflation, how things change. People underestimate how much they are impacting the bottom line. And we look at it primarily, our two important biting flies are our stable flies and our horn flies, and they're just taking blood away from that animal. And as we all know, anything you lose, you have to replace. And so anytime an animal is spending energy replacing that blood volume that they've lost, it means that they're not putting on weight or they're not producing as much milk. And where we really underestimate it, I think, is the amount of stress that it causes to the animals. If you've seen an animal under high fly worry is just what we call the behaviors. They're stressed.
Right.
They're not eating. They're agitated, and stress does crazy things to immune responses so that they don't behave appropriately, which makes them more susceptible to all the other things in the environment, which may not have otherwise caused any harm. And then the thing that we also don't look at is, even if an animal's maintaining its weight pretty well, maybe it's a mature cow and she doesn't seem to be losing weight.
Yeah.
We're not taking into account how much grass she's having to eat to maintain weight. And so I think that generally we just underestimate how much we're losing to these teeny tiny little creatures.
Yeah, when we start to think about that, you increase the maintenance
Yeah.
requirement, you're decreasing the immune response, all the above because of these pests.
Oh, and then it's something like, maybe, and they all exist in an ecosystem. We tend to talk about flies and we talk about ticks and we talk about other things separately, but they're all together. An animal has horn flies, stable flies, ticks. Maybe those ticks are containing pathogens. Horn flies, we see some of the mastitis issues. And so they really exist in the ecosystem. So it's hard to give a value. Other than that, I can say without any shadow of a doubt, we're underestimating the impact that they have.
I think it is important because we focus on the pink eye and the things that are traditional fly issues. And we haven't focused on just how much they're robbing us in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, causing major issues between the stable flies and the horn flies. We're at a point in time to take a break.
Yep.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dig into some of these fly issues specifically and start to learn how to control them and much more from Dr. Cassandra Olds. You're watching Doc Talk. We're at K-State.
Hello there, Dr. Nick Wagner, Professional Services Veterinarian with Neogen, and today I wanted to talk about what it entails for a risk assessment when you're looking at developing a comprehensive biosecurity program. A comprehensive biosecurity program is vital to being able to protect the health of your herd. And so it all starts with conducting that thorough risk assessment. And that thorough risk assessment involves understanding the unique challenges that your operation faces. And so it starts with being able to just look at a premise map of your facility to understand the traffic patterns. Next, then it comes down to being able to understand the health status of your herd as well as the health status of neighboring herds. And then from there, you identify the risk events. And the risk events are things like personnel movement, vehicle traffic, feed and water supply, animal movements, things like that are risk events. And then you look at how frequent those risk events occur because the frequency impacts the level of risk. And then the last piece of it is developing those mitigation measures in a multi-hurdle approach to be able to eliminate the possibility for disease transmission entering or exiting the operation.
Thanks for watching Cattle Intel by Neogen.
Are you a cattle feeder looking to manage for a stronger and more profitable set of cattle? Look no further than Igenity Feeder. Igenity Feeder utilizes DNA to gain insight into your cattle's genomic potential, with the information to predict performance, quality, and economic endpoints for cattle feeders. Animals are scored and ranked in a simple format, driving more precise and accurate management decisions. Igenity Feeder gives you the power to predict days on feed, manage variability within lots, characterize carcass performance, and focus on metrics important to you and your operation. With the data provided, you will identify superior animals earlier and maintain high operational efficiency. Maximize your profit and optimize performance with Igenity Feeder.
When the ones who have your heart need your help, count on us for everything they deserve, delivered fast. We'll work hard for you so you can work hard for your dreams.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson with Dr. Cassandra Olds. She's a veterinary entomologist at Kansas State University. She is someone that is involved in the beef industry at the highest levels and is just doing tremendous work on flies, ticks, and much, much more. But we're talking flies today in cows.
Yeah.
And so, what flies are causing this problem? How do we identify them?
I love that it's this simple, right? These two flies, very different. Both blood feeding. Stable fly feeds once a day, maybe twice a day, and then hangs out in the grass. And it's normally on the legs of the animal with its head pointing up. So if you think of the head and then there's two wings, the triangle points up.
Yep.
If you see a fly on the legs or the belly, head pointing up, stable fly.
Okay.
We underestimate how many we have because it feeds and then goes away. So each time you see those flies, it's a new fly each time.
Huh.
Horn flies on the back of the animal, they'll move down to the belly when it gets hot. They are about half the size of a stable fly, and they like to feed with their head feeding down, pointing down. So you just look at location and which direction the head's pointing, and it will give you an answer of to who it is. Our horn flies, constantly associated with the animals. They stay on once they pick an animal 24/7. If you watch these animals going through chutes and they get disturbed, the flies lift up and go right back down onto the same animal. Once they made they're loyal flies. I'll give them that. They are loyal flies. Stable flies, come as they go. They'll pick anyone.
I'll be dang. So stable flies, head up.
Head up, horn flies, head down.
All right. And stable flies go to the grass and rest, and horn flies are on the animal all the time.
Yep, and that's important because we control them very differently.
Yeah.
Their breeding sites are also really different.
Okay.
So stable fly, any decaying plant matter, which is hard. If you're in a pasture situation, there's grass all around you. And so it's very hard to eliminate breeding sites for stable flies. They're also only on the animal for a couple of minutes, so very hard to control with chemical. They're the hardest fly to control. one thing that we can do is eliminate that breeding site, and we'll talk about that in our next segment a little bit.
Okay.
Our horn flies, they are breeding in fresh bovine manure. That's why we see them on pastures and not in feedlots. That's the only place that they breed. So that it makes them, because they're with the host for a long time, and that breeding site makes them a little bit easier to control.
What's the last thing to consider?
How do you know if you have a problem? Right? We don't have time. I have the time that I take pictures of animals and count the numbers of flies, but nobody else has that kind of time. And so you want to be looking for fly worry. And so fly worry are these, and everybody's seen them. Sable flies, you'll see a lot of stamping, especially the front legs. Sometimes they'll kick their belly with their back legs, bunching together. They'll often bunch together and they'll get quite agitated with each other and bump up against each other, and they'll almost move as this mob bunch together. They're not grazing, they're mad.
Okay.
They'll get to the end of the fence and just stand there.
Okay.
Horn flies, we see a lot of tail swishing, throwing the head back. One thing to look out for is animals standing on ponds. If it's not terribly hot outside and an animal is standing in a pond, it's because he's got flies and he's trying to get rid of those flies.
And will they do that for both the stable fly and the horn fly, because they try to get away from them biting?
They try to get away from them biting, and they'll get as deep as they feel comfortable, and you'll see them standing in this pond but still tossing their head back. That's how I know when an animal's in a pond because it's hot, or an animal is in a pond because it's got fly worry.
I'll be.
You just watch them. These are your animals. You know your animals better than anybody else. Look for those signs. Let them tell you that, hey, I'm bothered now. We know cattle are stoic. I watch these hoof trimming videos, and the cow's got half a claw, and it's still walking. They can withstand a tremendous amount of pain. So if it's bothered and it's showing overt signs of worry, it means it's something that we need to take care of.
It's perfect. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about control of flies with Dr. Cassandra Olds.
In the livestock industry, castration is a common practice to ensure proper herd management. All methods are painful, regardless of the age of the animal. At Solvit, we could not ignore the clear industry need for better castration solutions. So we developed Lidoband, a novel lidocaine-impregnated elastrator, addressing the pain associated with band castration. It provides local anesthesia throughout the castration process. Lidoband, a small device that can make a big difference.
I've been a veterinarian since 1987. My wife and I set up a practice in Monette, Missouri in 1989. We started using therapies shortly after it came out. I was overwhelmed with the positive response that we were getting from producers. They could noticeably see a difference. I have to admit that I was pretty skeptical at first. I am currently 110% sold on the product. There is no doubt in my mind that this is an added product that we can use on these cattle that is going to make a significant difference.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Cassandra Olds, who is a wealth of information. She's a veterinary entomologist here at Kansas State University, does a ton of work in the industry, and just very busy. And so we
Never
got
too
her,
busy, though.
we got her, and very thankful that you're on the show. So we've identified the flies. We know that it's a big problem. Now we got to fix it, or prevent it and control it. So what do we do? Let's start with the non-chemical controls.
Non-chemical. I think, for the longest time, we've just, pour it, spray it, tag it, and that's been our go-to.
Right.
It was great when they worked, right? We have such problems with insecticide resistance that it just is not an option. So we need to make the mainstay of our fly control non-chemical options. For stable fly, that's really hard because they breed in any decaying plant matter, right? And there's only so much you have in your control. One of our big culprits are our big round hay bales. Hundreds and thousands of flies come out of that because there's the hay waste, they're messy eaters. And then the manure with the urine stomped into the ground. It's the water that's key. As long as it's dry, it's no issue. Once we start getting rain and that plant matter goes into the ground and it starts decaying, those larvae fly are feeding on the bacteria. And so bacteria need water.
Yep.
And so it's the dryness. So making sure you can eliminate hay waste. So, feed good quality hay so that the animals aren't going to mess it. If you've got that sometimes the hay bale's been standing for a while and there's that decaying part at the bottom, don't put that out. minimize this hay waste. And if you can spread it out and dry it, is always a good idea. Our horn flies, non-chemical control. We've got dung beetles out there who will remove that poop and bury it underground. No fly larva can live underground. And so we've decimated our dung beetles by ivermectin use. We think they can come back. We think it's a combination of ivermectins, but also how we graze cattle.
Right. We're
doing the research now to figure out what makes a beetle happy. And as soon as we have that, we'll let you guys know. Right now, we're just trying to figure it out. But, they can remove that breeding site for horn flies. We also see spring burning. It lowers your overall burden of both ticks and also flies. We got significant improvement in stock calf weight gain from just lowering that fly burden a little bit. Not significantly, just a smidge. And so spring burning can be one of those helpful tools. Just remember that when you burn, you only have one growing season of protection. Next year, they'll go back up to where they were previously. Yeah. So you have to just be aware of the limitations. And then walk through traps. We're trying to have them make a comeback. Not every producer is going to be able to do this, but it's basically trap the animals, walk through. There's a little curtain on the end. The flies sweep up, get stuck in the trap, and because the horn flies are just with the animal all the time, they're off the animal, they die. And so we had to dust off the plans. The plans were old, and we're going to try and figure out how to make new, modern, more pop wheels on them. And it's a long-term thing, right? You've got to get the animals used to it and stuff. But I really think if we start embracing some of these changes, we can really reduce, especially our horn fly populations, at minimal cost.
And I assume the cows start to understand,
yes,
and
yes.
They learn that if they go
learn.
through.
And I think if we make it a very non-stressful thing, and maybe it's a first year, and we've got to change our time scales with things, right? Maybe year one, you just leave it in the pasture and let them get used to it.
Yep.
And then you take off the screening so that they can pass through without being scared. And eventually you slowly, you make it a positive experience for them.
Yeah.
Once they figure out that once I walk through that trap, I feel better, they're going to do it by themselves. My horse is not the smartest creature. I moved him to Kansas and he was being bitten nonstop. He figured out that I put a fly sheet on him and he is comfortable. He gets mad when I take that off. He wants it back on. He's never destroyed a fly sheet because I think he mentally knows, the alternative is not that great. I think if we present it to animals in a way that helps them make that decision, and then the cows are going to teach the calves, and you're going to have the self-sustaining situation, is my hope at least.
It's awesome. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up talking about chemical control of flies with Dr. Cassandra Olds.
When it comes to treating BRD, you want a product that you can count on to get the job done at an affordable price. Macrocin by Bimeda delivers on both. A straight shooting, no BS tulathromycin that does what it's supposed to do. End of story. You don't need to take our word for it though. Go to macrocin.com for customer testimonials and head-to-head trial results. For your cattle and your bottom line, choose Macrocin.
Time is money on the farm, and your cows are less productive when they're stressed. The Alertus on-farm test from IDEX allows you to quickly test cow side and identify open or pregnant cows within minutes on your schedule in the parlor, barn, or chute. It's more efficient for your farm, very simple to use, and puts you in control. With minimal training and reliable, fast results, sample-based pregnancy testing is better for beef and dairy producers. Learn more at idex.com/DocTalk.
When you spot BRD in your cattle, that's your golden opportunity to target infection and its associated fever with a single dose of Resflor Gold, the industry standard dual therapy. To learn more, talk to your Merck Animal Health rep or your vet and see label at resflorgold.com. Animals intended for human consumption must not be slaughtered within 38 days of treatment. This product is not approved for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Cassandra Olds, who is a veterinary entomologist at Kansas State University and has an extension position, has research position, and just a tremendous teacher for all of us in veterinary medicine and beef production. Let's talk about flies and chemical control.
Yeah. First thing, stable flies are out.
Okay.
You
can't control them.
No. If we look at it, stuff that I've sort of taken field caught flies and put them on insecticides, yeah, the insecticides kill them, but they need to be contacting it for, 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's already on the leg for 2 minutes. It's just not getting that contact time.
Okay.
And so, really insecticide control is not an option for stable flies. Horn flies are, because they're with the animal 24/7, we really do have some good chemical controls. The problem is we've been really bad stewards of our chemicals, and we've got resistance. So we're going to talk about how to make sure that you don't have that. Fly tags is one that people commonly use. For a fly tag to work, it has to come in contact with the skin. And so, there's a lot of things like if you daisy chain it, it's just flapping free in the, you paid for it, but it's just flapping free in the wind, right? You want to tag both ears directly into the ear. And then making sure that, the box will say tag 1 ear for adequate control, 2 tags for optimal control. If you only tag 1 ear, you're only covering half the body with insecticide.
Gotcha.
So you want to tag both ears directly into the ear. You want to make sure that you rotate your tags. And so, people are like, oh, I used this tag last year. It seemed to work. I'll use it again. That's exactly what we don't want to do. So there's 3 classes for tags.
Okay.
It's an organophosphate, which is group 1B. There's a pyrethroid, which is group 3A. And then our macrocyclic lactones, which are group 6.
Okay.
We had to introduce group 6 because our pyrethroids and organophosphates, there's too much resistance to it.
Okay.
And so each year you want to go 1 class over. So it's year 1, figure out what you used last year, and then you move 1 over. So pyrethroid, organophosphate, macrocyclic lactone.
And then back.
And then back to pyrethroid year 4. And so the chemical companies have not been great about being, there's the chemical name on the box, but you don't know what that is, and you've got to Google it and type it in and things like that. I will say Whitex has been really great on their boxes. I was just in Boomgars this weekend and I saw the 3 boxes. They've got the product, the class number on the box now.
Okay.
And they've got each, so you can figure out really easily, which one you're at. And so that's very important. Rotate your classes. This is one that people don't like it when I say it, but I'm going to tell you why we do it. The box will say 4 to 5 months of control. We're not seeing that. We get 100 days out of a tag.
Okay.
So there's 2 things that are important about this. I understand that we do things because it's practical and it's convenient. If you tag cows when they go out in May, you've got May, June, and July coverage. That's not our peak fly period. If at all, and I understand this is not going to be possible for everybody, but if you can wait to tag so that you've got June, July, and August covered, that means that you're shifting your coverage period to where your fly burdens are the highest and they're making the most damage. The other thing, and this, people get a little bit upset when I say this, but I'm going to tell you why. You only have 100 days of coverage. After that 100 days, pull that tag out. I understand that it may mean that you've got to round everybody up, but you've only got 100 days of killing efficacy.
Yep.
After that point, the concentration dips down. It's still there, but it's on its decline, and it's a sublethal dose for the insect. And so you're giving it 2 months of a sublethal dose of the chemical, and what you're really saying is, hey, Dan, there's something kind of toxic.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill you right now, but you may want to think about finding a plan B. Anytime you use an insecticide, you're asking the fly to develop resistance.
So take them out.
Take them out if you can. Don't retag, just take them out. Make sure you rotate. And if you can delay, so the only caveat is stocker calves. They're so sensitive to flies. If you tag them upon going out early, even though the fly burdens aren't terribly high, you will still see improved weight gains.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Happy.
Thanks for being on the show.
Happy as always.
Thank you for watching the show. Remember, if you want to find out what we do at DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. From Kansas State University, I'm Dr. Dan Thompson with Dr. Cassandra Olds, and we'll see you down the road.
At Merck Animal Health, we support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.
one animal has this huge impact on your operation.
BVDV is one of the most costly bovine diseases, with losses of $15 to $88 per head.
The virus will actually cross the placenta and get into the fetus. As it's developing, its immune system will recognize that virus as it's supposed to be here. And so then that's where our persistently infected animals come from. They're going to shed that virus their entire life, and then it's going to impact your operation.
It is important to work with your local veterinarian and partner with IDEXX for the best solution for your operation.
Success in the cattle business hinges on a lot of different people playing their part, from the vet to the cowboy and the nutritionist to the feed truck driver. You rely on them to get their job done right, and so do your cattle. Your expectations for the vaccines you use should be no different. Bimeta's cattle vaccines were developed and are made and sold by men and women in the cattle business. No smoke and mirrors, just real-world protection that you can rely on. Go to BimetaBiologicals.com to learn more.